Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. We were doing verses 16 and 17 yesterday. I'll just quickly run through this. 16th was, so what does, therefore, when you perform the yajna, you are naturally in tune with Parameshwara. You also are not away from the Lord. The yajna is looked upon as being immediately connected with Parameshwara. Its words are a revelation of Ishvara, and by performing this yajna, which is a karma, you are propitiating the devatas that are Parameshwara. And what happens if you do not perform such karma was given in verse 16. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaha aghayurindriya ramaha mogham partha sajivati. A person who does not live here in this life according to the cosmic wheel that is already set in motion in this manner and lives in sin, given only to the senses, lives waste. So there is a mutual benefit that is inherent in the order that is set in motion. So if you just fall in line with this order, you are propitiating the devatas and then you work in harmony with them. Whereas living beings who are, they are conscious beings, since, but on the other hand, if you are indulged in the sense organs, So the Aghayu is a person whose life is nothing but Agha, Papa. In this verse, such a person is also called Indriya Rama, meaning one who lives only at the level of the sense organs and therefore does not perceive anything beyond the eyes, nose, and ears. The origin of these functionaries is never questioned by such people. The eyes are there and therefore they feast. There are people who are given to sensory pleasures alone. Those who live in this way, who do not follow the chakra, the wheel that is the order, live wastefully, Krishna said here. Everything that is given to these people lays waste. Such people waste their lives and live without any purpose, drifting along without anchor or roots. The depth and understanding that a human being is supposed to have is not there for an Indriya Rama. Just give me a second. Something went to the screen sharing. Please read this one more time. So if you perform yajna, the devatas are all pleased and you work in harmony according to the order referred to here as the cosmic wheel chakra. There is a mutual benefit here that is inherent in the order that is already set in motion. The whole universe, the whole planetary system operates by mutual attraction. Every planet, the sun, the moon, and the earth move in their respective orbits because of the force of attraction that keeps the whole system going. Otherwise, it would collapse. When you look into any nucleus, you find that the motion of the particles operates in the same way. Similarly, certain proteins attract certain other proteins. Structurally, they are all attracted to each other. Certain bugs attack only certain things, all because of protein structures. In this way, the entire cosmos is nothing but a force of attraction operating in a most intelligent manner. I repeat this, the entire cosmos is nothing but a force of attraction operating in a most intelligent manner. Living beings who are not mere physical entities are conscious beings mutually related to the Devatas. Since this is how the order is set up, you recognize them, acknowledge them. Again, it is nothing but that force of attraction that is working on between living beings and the Devatas. Devatas are nothing but aspects of Ishvara. Since this is how the order is set up, you recognize them and acknowledge them. The chakra spoken of here is much more than a cosmic wheel. It not only includes the physical world, it includes everything. This chakra, this order, is set up as it is by Ishvara, the efficient and material cause of it all. Seeing beyond the sense organs. Aghayu is, so this one I read already. So Aghayu is a person who is given to sin, papa. That is because he is an Indriya Ram. The origin of these functionaries is never questioned by such people. The eyes are there and therefore they feast. These are people who are given to sensory pleasures alone. Those who live in this way, who do not follow the chakra, the wheel that is the order, live wastefully, Krishna said here. Everything that is given to these people lays waste. Such people waste their lives and live without any purpose, drifting along without anchor or roots. The depth and understanding that a human being is supposed to have is not there for an Indriya Rama. This is where the importance of seva comes in, because the time that you spend doing seva, you are not engaged in sensory pleasures. You're doing something to uplift someone, to help someone. And there is a purpose in your life. Whenever there is this kind of criticism in the Gita, its purpose is only to direct your attention to what is to be done. You are to push this wheel, this chakra, knowing that you are a cog in it, someone who is important in maintaining the order. Do what you have to do. By doing so, it keeps going. To think that by not doing what you have to do, the order will not be disturbed is not proper, as the following story demonstrates. There was once a king who thought that his citizens were all excellent people, but his chief minister, a very intelligent man, could not agree with him. He knew that while by and large they had a good kingdom, there were probably some thieves among them. They simply did not hunt down every last one of them. There are also some petty thieves around, even if they only pick their own pockets for practice. Knowing this, the minister could not concur with the king that every citizen was upright. To prove who was right, the king or himself, the minister erected a huge tank with a ladder to the top. He issued a decree that every citizen was to deposit 1 ounce of milk into this tank. Dutifully, the people all lined up to add their milk to the tank. When they all had done their duty, the minister said to the king, "Let us go and see whether the milk in the tank is pure or whether it is somewhat watered down." What they found was not pure milk, not even thin milk. Only water was there, without so much as a trace of white in it. The king then asked the minister whether he had asked the people to put milk or water. The minister confirmed. He said milk. "But how could then this be?" the king asked. The minister then explained to him that each person, thinking that his or her water would make no difference in so much milk, opted not to give any milk at all. This shows that if you think that you do not need to do what has to be done because everyone else will do it, and if that is the thinking of everyone, everything comes to a halt. And if all but one person does do what is to be done, the one who does not do it and who partakes of the benefit becomes a cheat. So if one thinks that without doing what is to be done, the chakra will continue to move, he or she amounts to a thief, a cheat, because he or she is partaking of the result, of the outcome, of the consequence without contributing to it. Ecology always starts with you. This is true in any system, be it a small community, a factory, a society, the world, or the entire universe. The same psychology, the same law applies and is all that ecology is about. Live and let live, and recognize what the contribution is. This is what makes a person sensitive. Such a person is not an ordinary person, and it is here that one's attention is to be drawn. Ecology starts with one person, and that person is you. It never starts with someone else. If you start with yourself, there is no problem. Whenever you count yourself first. Counting yourself first is not selfishness, as we shall see. So any sharing before we go on to the next? I know the next also we did yesterday, but we're just doing a recap. So it's very clear that there is a cosmic order that is set in place when Ishvara, being the material cause as well as the efficient cause. And he pervades in and through this creation. And there is an order in this creation. There is a mutual attraction, that force of attraction that keeps things moving. So being a cog in the wheel, being a part of this order, each one of us has to do what is to be done. Then we are abiding, aligning with the order. And so when we acknowledge this order and we recognize it and follow it, then we are not being a cheat. Otherwise, if you think the order will continue without you doing what is to be done. So it's living a life of awareness, living a life of being alert, living a life of being sensitive. And this starts with us. The ecology starts with us, each one of us, right? Living a life of purpose and not just being an Indriya Rama. See, all other animals live instinctively. They eat when they are hungry. They don't overeat. Whereas human beings are the ones that have this capacity to overindulge. Any of the five senses, they can overindulge. So that then amounts to being an Indriya without looking at the origin of these sense organs. So living a life of viveka, vairagya, and introspection, and not just being a slave to the sense organs. So whenever you count yourself first. Counting yourself first is not selfishness, as we shall see. Yasvatmaratirev syat atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. Two, whereas yaha manavaha, the person who atma ratihi eva, delights in the self alone, atma triptaha cha, and is satisfied with the self, atmani eva, in the self alone, Santushtaha cha, and is contented. Syat would be tasya, for him. Karyam, work to be done. Na vidyate, does not exist. Tu yaha manavaha atmaratihi eva atmatriptaha cha atmani eva santushtaha cha syat tasya karyam na vidyate. Whereas for the person who would delight in the self, who is satisfied with the self, contented in the self alone, there is nothing to be done. If karma has to be done in order to keep the cosmic wheel going, does everyone have to perform it? And since some people do gain moksha, does this mean that karma becomes the way to moksha after all? And jnana, knowledge, has nothing to do with it? Krishna had already said that karma yoga does not produce moksha directly. Therefore, he had to address this doubt here. So these are the questions that crop up. One has to do what one is supposed to do. But then there are some people who gain moksha. Does this mean that karma is the cause of moksha? Is that the way the karma becomes the way to moksha and not jnana? If karma were the means for moksha, then everyone would have to do karma only as a yoga. But karma yoga is not the means for moksha, let alone the only means. It is the means for antakarana shuddhi, purification of the mind. Jnana is the only means for moksha, meaning that there is no kartavya, there is nothing that has to be done. If knowledge is the means for moksha and the person gains that knowledge, then there is nothing else for him or her to do. There is no kartavya because the person is not bound by any karma, knowledge having destroyed the doer. Without the doer, no action is done. Knowledge destroys doership completely. If someone is addressed as a doer, who is that? Who is it that responds? Only a person who takes himself or herself to be a doer. The one who is not a doer is not addressed at all, and therefore, of course, does not respond. Whereas in the present verse, is to distinguish the non-doer from the doer. Shankara calls the non-doer Sankhya here, meaning one who has self-knowledge, a sannyasi. So when we say sannyasi here, this is understood to be a vidvat sannyasi. Such a person is a sthita prajna, as we saw in chapter 2. For this person, there is no doubt, error, or vagueness with reference to I, the Atma. In order to become happy in oneself with oneself, a person has to become steadfast in the knowledge of Atma. This is not possible for a person who looks upon Atma as a samsari, a limited, sorrowful, sinful person. The moment such a person thinks of himself or herself, he or she is unhappy because Atma is looked upon as a doer, an enjoyer, as one who has limited knowledge, an imperfect person, a sinner, and so on. Because he or she cannot be happy in the Atma, the person has to look towards something other than the self and must manipulate the world or the mind in order to gain even a small degree of happiness. An enjoyer, bhogi, manipulates the world, and a yogi manipulates the mind. A bhogi is one who looks upon the world as something to be enjoyed and who goes about manipulating situations, manipulating the world to create conducive situations wherein he or she can discover a moment of joy. The situation thus created pleases the person, but only for the time being, whereupon the process of manipulation must begin again. A yogi, on the other hand, is one who does not manipulate the world. Such a person is concerned only with his or her thoughts, contending that the pleasurable mental disposition picked up by the bhogi through manipulating the world can be created straight away in the mind. Thus, the yogi goes about manipulating the mind, whereas the bhogi goes about manipulating the world. There is yet another person, the rogi, who is so diseased that he or she cannot manipulate the world, much less the mind. Such a person cannot keep himself or herself in good humor because of the pain of illness, nor is he or she healthy enough to manipulate the world. So a person who's totally in depression is the other extreme of being a rogi. So we have a yogi, bhogi, and a rogi. So a person who has realized the self has nothing to do. He has nothing to do because he is out of this cosmic wheel. Cosmic wheel is that of creation, is that comes out of Maya. And this person who is realized, that is a Vidvat sannyasi, is out of the samsara. So he has actually nothing to do. He is freed from the karma cycle. Whereas till such time, everybody has to continue to do. So in so doing, you can be a yogi, manipulating your own mind, being an atmanieva atmanatushtaha. That is a sita prajna. Whereas a person who needs to manipulate, a karma yogi is one who manipulates his own mind, takes care of his own ragadveshas. And karma yoga is an indirect means for moksha because it only creates antakarana shuddhi, where jnana can dawn. Where jnana is the ultimate, penultimate step towards moksha. Whereas a bhogi is one who manipulates the world. And a rogi is one who is so diseased, engulfed by his own illness, whether of the body or of the mind, that he cannot even manipulate the world. He is in total misery. Becoming is a problem. Yogic postures, asanas, breath control, pranayama, and so on all create a certain conducive situation wherein the yogi can pick up a moment of joy. The bhogi, of course, manipulates the world for enjoyment, and the rogi is unable to do anything in order to enjoy. The point here is that all three of them look upon the Atma as something that has to become something. This becoming creates a lot of problems. Any becoming is unbecoming because it always requires yet another becoming. Thus, becoming is nothing but continuous becoming. Before becoming, they are nothing but problems. There are nothing but problems. While becoming, there is a lot of pain. And after becoming, the person has to become something else again. The problem is therefore never solved. This is quite tricky. I will just read this one more time. Let's pay attention. Becoming is a problem. Just give me 1 minute, please. Yeah. In the meanwhile, maybe we can just reflect on what was read. Just a second. So, becoming is a problem. Yogic postures, asanas, breath control, pranayama, and so on all create a certain conducive situation wherein the yogi can pick up a moment of joy. The bogi, of course, manipulates the world for enjoyment, and the rogi is unable to do anything in order to enjoy. The point here is that all three of them look upon the Atma as something that has to become something. This is a point that we have to understand. So the point here is that all three of them, whether it's a rogi, yogi, or bhogi, look upon the Atma as something that has to become something. This becoming creates a lot of problems. Any becoming is unbecoming because it always requires yet another becoming. Thus, becoming is nothing but continuous becoming. Before becoming, there are nothing but problems. While becoming, there is a lot of pain. And after becoming, the person has to become something else again. The problem is therefore never solved. So basically, how I understand this is like, even if you're doing yogic postures, asanas, breath control, it is only momentary. At that time, you become peaceful, you become happy, right? And same thing with the bhogi. Once he gets his sense pleasures, he becomes happy. And a rogi, of course, you can discount that rogi because even for becoming, he does not have the strength because he's so caught up in his illness. So take a yogi, for instance. Before doing pranayama, he has had some disturbance in the mind. But while and after doing the pranayama, he becomes peaceful, right? But after a while, again, he gets into this rut of he unbecomes. He again gets back into some disturbance. So the cycle continues. So this becoming is a problem. So what we need to realize is it is not that we have to become something. We have to realize that we are nothing but bliss. And that comes only with jnana. So a person who looks upon the Atma as imperfect is always in trouble and is therefore a samsari. Whereas the person described in this verse, an Atmarati, is one who always revels in the Atma. The joy that reveling in the Atma implies does not require anything other than oneself. No object, no situation, no person is required for the happiness of such an Atmarati. This means that the self cannot be imperfect, that it is the very essence of happiness and fullness. So the Atmarati does not need to even do yoga, pranayama, meditation, because he or she is reveling in the self, which is nothing but fullness and happiness. It does not require any other thing other than oneself. No object, no situation, no person is required for the happiness of such an Atmarati. A person who looks upon the Atma as imperfect. See, even a yogi, why does he have to manipulate the mind? Because he sees an imperfection, and in order to get out of that imperfection, he manipulates his mind. But he is still work in progress. He has not become an Atmarati. So, whereas the person described in this verse, an Atmarati, is one who always revels in the Atma. See, because if you consider a yogi, consider all of us as sadhaks, when we have a situation where we're using this knowledge, for instance, the knowledge that is given in the happiness program, we're using it. The reason why we're using it is because we've gone through some disturbance. And then we've realized that we've used this knowledge. So we're actually doing a yo-yo. It is, we go through disturbance, we use the knowledge, we attain that peace of mind, and then again it goes on in a cycle. So there is that imperfection, perfection cycle that's happening. Whereas an Atmarati is one who does not see this imperfection at all. He is reveling in that fullness. So therefore, no object, no situation, no person is required for the happiness of such an Atmarati. The joy that reveling in the Atma implies does not require anything other than oneself. This means that the self cannot be imperfect, that it is the very essence of happiness and fullness. If the essence of Atma happens to be fullness, Purna Swarupa, and if this is known to the person, then he or she is one who is steadfast in the knowledge of oneself. Atma Jnana Nishta. In order to be happy with oneself, one has to have knowledge, jnana of Atma as fullness. Generally, one who picks up a moment of joy does so with reference to some object or situation, either outside in the case of the bhogi or inside in the case of the yogi. The only difference between the two is that the yogi does not require any tools except himself or herself. A yogi's raw material is an agitated mind. If this is there, yoga, which is a discipline, can be practiced. If the mind is not agitated, yoga is not required at all. Thus, the yogi's joy is also with reference to an object, the mind, even though it is not available to the senses. How beautifully Swamiji has explained this. I will read this second para and come back to the first again. In order to be a person whose joy is in the Atma, one has to be awake to the Atma. The person who is steadfast in the knowledge of oneself and Atma Jnana Nishta is one whose happiness is within oneself and not in internal or external objects. Krishna also described this person as Atma Tripta, one whose satisfaction is in oneself. Nothing more is required for a person to be satisfied. Everyone wants to be satisfied. This is not satisfying at all, we say. And then we continually seek situations that will satisfy us. An Atma Tripta, however, discovers joy in the Atma, in the self, and thereby satisfies himself or herself with the self alone. Generally, we satisfy ourselves with something else. But here, with the knowledge of the Atma, the person is satisfied with himself or herself. Let me read this one more time. So we understood this becoming is a problem, right? So a person who looks upon the Atma as imperfect is always in trouble and is therefore a samsari. Whereas the person described in this verse, an Atmarati, is one who always revels in the Atma. The joy that reveling in the Atma implies does not require anything other than oneself. No object, mind you, even the mind is an object, right? Because it is something that can be perceived. Therefore, no object, no situation, no person is required for the happiness of such an Atmarati. This means that the self cannot be imperfect, that it is the very essence of happiness and fullness. If the essence of Atma happens to be fullness, Purna Swarupa, and if this is known to the person, then he or she is one who is steadfast in the knowledge of oneself. Atma Jnana Nishtha. In order to be happy with oneself, one has to have knowledge, jnana of Atma as fullness. Generally, one who picks up a moment of joy does so with reference to some object or situation, either outside in the case of the bhogi or inside in the case of the yogi. The only difference between the two is that the yogi does not require any tools except himself or herself. A yogi's raw material is an agitated mind. So the yogi's raw material is an agitated mind. If this is there, yoga, which is a discipline, can be practiced. If the mind is not agitated, yoga is not required at all. For example, for a jnani, yoga is not required. Thus, the yogi's joy is also with reference to an object, the mind, even though it is not available to the senses. In order to be a person whose joy is in the Atma, one has to be awake to the Atma. The person who is steadfast in the knowledge of oneself and Atma Jnana Nishtha is one whose happiness is within oneself and not in internal or external objects. So he goes even beyond the mind. He's gone beyond the duality. Krishna also described this person as Atma Tripta, one whose satisfaction is in oneself. Nothing more is required for a person to be satisfied. Everyone wants to be satisfied. This is not satisfying at all, we say. And then we continually seek situations that will satisfy us. And Atma Tripta, however, discovers joy in the Atma, in the self, and thereby satisfies himself or herself with the self alone. Generally, we satisfy ourselves with something else. But here, with the knowledge of the Atma, the person is satisfied with himself or herself. So, when we go back to being awake, one who is steadfast in the knowledge of oneself, when does one get this knowledge of the self? We saw in the previous verses and the second chapter that it is only when there is antakarana shuddhi and antakarana naischalya. And when can that antakarana shuddhi happen? When one is cleansed of his or her ragadveshas. So as long as we are reeling in ragadveshas, we are not going to be awake to the self. So karma yoga as a discipline has to be practiced in order to create such a situation for knowledge to happen. And till such time, we continue to do what is to be done with the yajna bhava. Anyone wants to share anything? I will read the next few paras. So, happiness is with the self alone. People pick up a moment of happiness when an external object desirable to them is gained. Whereas for the Atma Jnana Nishta, not being dependent on the gain of any external situations or objects, happiness is with the self alone. That this means that such a person is free from any longing to be secure, to be happy, and is therefore a sarva karma sannyasi, a jnani, one who looks upon himself or herself not as a doer or an enjoyer, but as pure consciousness, that is Atma. For this person, there is no karma to be done. He is happy with himself. Atmani eva santushtaha. So this person is free from any longing to be secure. He does not consider the Atma to be insecure, limited, miserable, imperfect being. For him, the Atma is full, complete, Purna Swarupa. For a person who already has this knowledge, the Veda, with all its enticing words, is as useful as a well when the well itself is under water. What is this one? The verse in chapter 2. Veda Vadaradav Partha Nanyadastiti Vadinaha. Kamatmana Svargaparaha Vyamimam Pushpitam Vacham Pravadanti Manishinaha. There's something called Udapane. Is that? Yamimam Pushpitam Vacham Pravadanti Mani Vedavadaratav Partha Nanyadastiti Vadinaha Yavanartha Udapani Sampluta Samplutodake. तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः. So, a well, for a person who already has this knowledge, the Veda with all its enticing words is as useful as a well when the well itself is underwater. The wise are in no way enjoined by the Veda to do anything. This is an important point of clarification since the Veda prescribes daily and occasional rituals in such a way that people think there is no way for anyone to escape them. So the Veda talks only to the doer, not to the non-doer. Right? The Veda is given, the injunctions in the Vedas, the rituals, Nitya Karma, Naimitya Karma, are all for the doer. It is true that everyone performs action, even a jnani, but the jnani does not look upon himself or herself as a doer. For such a person, there is no doership, and therefore the Veda does not enjoin any action. The jnani is not even addressed, in fact. Only the ajnani, one who looks upon himself or herself as a doer, is addressed. It is like calling someone by name. Rama, please come here. Only Rama will come. Krishna will not come, nor will John. Similarly, it is only the ajnani, the doer, who is being addressed by the Veda. O doer, please perform this action. Only the person who looks upon himself or herself as a doer is bound by karma. Thus, karma yoga is not meant for a jnani, but for the ignorant, the ajnani alone. Karma yoga is enjoined for the ignorant because without it, you cannot acquire the knowledge. Thus, karma yoga becomes the indirect means for gaining the knowledge that is moksha. Here too a doubt may arise. If knowledge of the Atma can only be gained by an inquiry into the pramana that gives this knowledge, why should I bother about karma yoga? Is a natural question that comes in. After all, karma yoga is not the means for knowledge. It is only the means for antakarana shuddhi. But can you inquire into the pramana and gain the knowledge if your mind is not prepared? The antakarana, the mind, is where the knowledge has to take place. Thus, preparing the mind is necessary and is accomplished by karma yoga. This is why Krishna kept telling Arjuna to perform action, karma kuru. And again, this is why he told him that both the lifestyles, karma yoga and sannyasa or jnana yoga, are meant for moksha. The ritual of sannyasa can be performed for the sake of knowledge, but that does not mean that simply by taking sannyasa, you will achieve naishkarmya, actionlessness. Without knowledge, there is no naishkarmya. Throughout the Gita, this was Lord Krishna's contention. The next verse describes the person who knows that he or she is not a doer. Very clear now, right? I will repeat this. Maybe we'll repeat these paras again tomorrow before going to the next verse. Naiva tasya krite nartho na krite neha kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschitadhavya pashrayaha. So the gist is, the meaning is, for that person who revels in the self, there is indeed no purpose here in this world for doing or not doing action, nor does such a person depend on any being or any object whatsoever. We'll see this tomorrow. So, any sharing? So, it is very clear that the Veda addresses only the Ajnani, the doer. It is not addressing the Jnani at all. So karma yoga is required. Why? If knowledge is the only way to gain moksha, is not the, sorry, if knowledge is the way for moksha, then why even do karma could be the question. But can knowledge happen in a mind that is not prepared, in a dirty mind? It cannot. So in order to purify the mind, karma yoga is required. That is why Krishna kept goading Arjuna to do karma. Karma kuru. There are two lifestyles, of course. Jnana yoga, sannyasa, as well as karma yoga. Both that lead to moksha. But karma yoga is an indirect means for gaining knowledge. And just by taking sannyasa, you don't get naishkarmya. It again, the actionlessness comes only with knowledge. So it is jnanena sarva karma sannyasa. And what is that jnana? The jnana is to realize that the Atma is full, to be Atma tripta, to be Atma, Atmani eva Atmana santushta. I am secure, I am full. I do not need any external object or even internal object to feel complete, to become something. There's nothing becoming there. You are. You only have to remove that veil of ignorance. Yeah, anybody sharing before we close? That is why even just by doing, that's why Gurudev said, even Sudarshan Kriya will not get you moksha. Because ultimately it is also part of karma, part of an action. It is an action, it is a breathing technique. So the yoga, pranayam, breathing, meditation, all that we do is still an action. All these, no doubt, help in cleansing, help in clearing up the muck in the mind, but they would not give you moksha. They're all indirect ways. Ultimately, that knowledge should dawn. We'll close here today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
Meditation is accepting this moment, living every moment totally with depth. Let us keep our spine erect and body relaxed and eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Keep a big smile on your face. You're sitting like the statue of Buddha, very serene and with a serene smile on your face. Relax your body. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your chest region, throat and chest region. If you notice some tension in the body, just let it be. Except those parts of the body where you feel a tension, the other parts are in comfort. Other parts are at peace. Become aware of that also. There are many good things about you and inside of you. Acknowledge them. They will never leave you. And the negative aspect you may see in you is never going to stay with you forever. They are all guests for some time. Let them be. Sit with the total acceptance of yourself the way you are at this very moment. Total acceptance of what is now here lead us to deeper meditation. Let go of all the effort. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let go of all your effort and be in this emptiness. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open it.